Oh, I have a gavel. It's 9:05, 9:04. It's 9:04. Going to call this meeting of the Planning Commission to order, establish that we have a quorum present. First item is the consent agenda. The commission may request for a consent agenda item to be moved to the regular agenda for presentation and public comment. Otherwise, the consent agenda will be considered in one vote. All items on the consent agenda have been recommended for approval by staff with no opposition received to date. Since some items on the consent agenda may require a public hearing, the commission will accept public comment on any item on the consent agenda in one public hearing. There are two items on the consent agenda. Item A is the Planning Commission minutes from the November 15th meeting. Item B is a replat in the Bentwood Village edition. So I'm going to start by opening it up for public comment. Anyone wish to speak on these two items, please come forward, state your name, your address, and your single member district. Okay, I'm going to close public comment. Does anyone wish to share their thoughts or make a motion?
I just want to confirm on the replat that there are no sidewalks involved. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, make a motion to approve.
We have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda items in one vote. All in favor say aye. 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 Opposed? 7-0. Regular agenda. Subdivision plats. The Planning Commission has final authority for approval. Appeals may be directed to the City Council. Item A, first replat of part of lots 6 and 7, Block 103, south part of Fort Concho Addition. The request for approval of a first replat of part of lots 6 and 7, Block 103, south part of Fort Concho Addition being 0.14 acres southwest of South Irving Street and West Avenue J.
Good morning, Kyle Warren, planner, City of San Angelo. And this is the first replat, South Fort Concho Addition, Block 103. It's located to the southwest of West Avenue J and Irving Street intersection, District 3 Harry Thomas in the Fort Concho neighborhood. And it's zoned RS2, as you can see in the map. This is the plat image of the first replat. It's the lot to the north. And this is the notification map. 21 notifications were mailed out, 0 in favor and 0 in opposition. Our recommendation is for Planning Commission to approve the first replat of South Fort Concho Addition, Block 103, subject to 3 conditions of approval shown after this slide. And I will note, Planning and Engineering have already administratively approved a street widening variance as this replat was in the infill area. Our conditions of approval, no delinquent taxes, obtain an approach permit from building permits, and provide a dedication of private utility easement to encompass the existing or future alignment of a sewer service line across adjacent private property. Any questions?
Anyone have questions for the staff? All right. Thank you. We're going to open it up for public comment. If you would, please state your name and address, single member district.
Good morning. My name is Blake with Wilde Engineering. I'm here representing Ms. Watkins on this, and they just ask for your approval as presented.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak on this case? All right, I'm going to close public comment.
Motion to approve. Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve as presented by the staff. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? 7-0. Next item, B, first replat of Lot 11, the west 100 feet of lots 12, 13, and 14, Block 21, Lakeview Addition. Request for approval of a first replat of Lot 11, the west 100 feet lots 12, 13, and 14, Block 21, Lakeview Addition, being .568 acres near Oak Lawn Street and East 46th Street.
Good morning, Rafael Alvarado, Planning and Development Services. This is Lakeview Addition, Block 21, located mid-block along East 46th Street between Oak Lawn and Travis Street. It is District 2, Tom Thompson, in the Lakeview neighborhood. These are the vision plan and zoning district maps for the area. It is residential in the neighborhood vision plan. This is the notification letter. There have been 0 letters in opposition and 0 letters in support. 21 notifications letters were mailed out. This is the replat. And the following are images of the site. There was an administrative variance approved for the street width. It is currently measured at 36 feet, and the ordinance states that it must be 40 feet. That has been administratively approved. Staff recommends approval of first replat of Lakeview Addition, Block 21, with 2 conditions of approval. The first is, prior to plat recordation, provide a copy of Tom Green County Appraisal Certification, indicating there are no delinquent taxes on the subject property of this subdivision. And the second is, prior to plat recordation, the plat must adhere to the conditions in the right-of-way abandonment as approved by City Council. Are there any questions for staff?
Anyone have questions for the staff? So are there 2 existing homes on this lot, and it's being replatted into?
Well, what's occurring is the alleyway is being abandoned, so
Between the lots?
that's correct.
Okay.
I think it's visible here. The alleyway would have been in this area.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone else have questions? All right, we're going to open it up for public comment. Anyone wishing to speak on this case, please come forward, state your name, address, single member district. All right, I'm going to close public comment. Anyone have questions or wish to make a motion?
Make a motion to approve as presented.
We have a motion and a second to approve as presented by the staff. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? 7-0. Item C, replat of lots 5, 6A, 6B, 6C, Block 1, revised, Claremore Heights addition. Request for approval of a replat of lots 5, 6A, 6B, and 6C, Block 1, revised, Claremore Heights addition being .383 acres located northwest of West Beauregard Avenue and Moritz Circle. Variances from Chapter 10.3A2 of the subdivision ordinance to maintain 36 feet paving widths for West Beauregard and Moritz Circle, urban local streets.
Good morning, Commissioners. Jeff Fisher, Chief Planner. Our next case today is a replat of Lot 5, 6A, 6B, and 6C of Block 1 in the Claremore Heights addition. The property is owned RM1, low-rise multifamily residential, so I'll show you the plat in a minute. Based on the lot widths, it's going to be for townhomes. This was a series of previous approvals that were essentially combining lots for the same purpose. They've expanded it a little bit, taken in some more land. So it's a replat of 4 existing lots into 7. Townhomes can be up to 8 lots, so this will be for townhomes. Lots are average 33 feet wide. They have to be 25 feet wide, so they're a little bigger than what they need. They are requesting variances, as they did a few years ago, on West Beauregard Avenue, which is 36 feet with curbs and gutter, not to go to 40 or put in a sidewalk, and also on Moritz Circle, which is the main street that goes up and down, and that street also is 36. Last time around when we did this, we wanted a sidewalk on Moritz Circle. We're not as concerned about the extra 2 feet of pavement, but we would like a sidewalk. That'll allow them to keep 36 feet with the sidewalk and then not require the variance. But the applicant prefers not to put in a sidewalk at this time. Even though this is a local road, we do believe there is justification for a sidewalk, and the main reason is that you've got HEB and some of the commercial plazas up here. And so in our new sidewalk ordinance in RM1 zoning, it would require a sidewalk anyway, even on a local road. So based on current ordinance provisions and new ordinance provisions, we would like one. Other than that, the plat conforms with the comprehensive plan and purpose statements. Staff recommendation is to approve the replat as presented. Approval of a variance to allow the 36-foot paving width, the curb and gutter on West Beauregard Avenue, an urban local street. So we're fine with Beauregard. That's an infill existing street, but we are recommending denial of the variance on Moritz Circle and recommend a sidewalk adjacent to Moritz, subject to the 5 conditions of approval. Tax certificate, submit plans and construction for Moritz Circle, West Beauregard Avenue plans and construction, install a sewer main along Moritz. Fire hydrants and access may be required and noted on the plat, and then, of course, the note, the sidewalk plan and construction, and that can be deferred to building permits. We're okay with them doing it then and not before the plat gets recorded. This concludes staff's presentation.
Could you go back to the conditions, please, Jeff? It says sidewalk plan and construction prior to final occupancy. You're saying that you'd like to see it as part of the building permit process?
Yes, let me go to the full condition. That's correct, though. Yeah, and just to be clear, so they would submit the sidewalk plan. So the plat could get recorded. They would submit the sidewalk plan when they submit their building permit, and they show the lot. They would draw the sidewalk on, but they wouldn't have to construct it until they get final occupancy. So just give us the plan, start building it, and then just put in the sidewalk as you're building the building.
So it would be a condition of a CO?
Correct.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Jeff, could you put it back on the slide that has all the, a drawing and lots of that one?
Aerial, there
Okay,
we go.
thank you.
Okay. Anyone else have questions for the staff? Thank you. Open it up for public comment.
Good morning, Russell with SKG Engineering. We would ask for your approval of the variance as requested. We've been here kind of down this road when we replatted that, those first 4 lots. The first time variance was granted at that point, they got to working on kind of design drawings, working with an architect on plans, and so as part of that, the lot configuration needed to change for these first 4 lots, so they decided, hey, let's just go ahead and pick up kind of some more lots and kind of do a large group here while we're doing this. So would ask for your approval of the variances as requested. There's, they were talking about the sidewalk ordinance as proposed, that it would be required, but that hadn't been fleshed out yet, so maybe that's getting a little early in the game. If that was approved or we knew what it was, maybe so, but at this point, we're here asking for your approval and be happy to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Questions for Mr. Gully? I do have a question about the traffic on this street here. Is there a lot of pedestrian traffic on Moritz? It's proximal to the commercial, and it sounds like that's the staff's compelling argument for installing sidewalks.
I don't know. Did y'all see any kind of a desire path, if you will, a worn path?
I didn't the couple times that I drove by, but I think it's the same argument. If once we build the sidewalk, it'll encourage more pedestrians. And I think that given all the houses to the west and southwest, it's going to generate more traffic just being so close to HEB. You've also got the sidewalk in white showing up on the screen. That TxDOT's already installed. I can't do it from here, but
Yes, I see.
so
it on
I think if it
Sherwood Way.
wasn't as close to HEB, like even maybe way down on this side, we probably wouldn't have required it. But I think the RM1 is different than the RS1. I think single-family homes, That argument, I think, maybe might, has some weight at times. I think in this case with the multifamily and being so close to commercial activity.
Thank you.
Is there a sidewalk along Moritz Circle on the other side of the, well, on the medical center? Or I guess that's some kind of
Emergency
a
room.
medical office now.
Yeah.
It goes up to Sherwood Way and then along the, I guess, east side. Is that a sidewalk?
I don't believe so. I think it's just along Sherwood. Correct me, anybody, if I missed that.
I think it's just on Sherwood too. I don't think there's anything on down the street at all. So on this, to me, I don't know, can I talk? May I speak?
Sure.
Okay, so this to me looks like if there are going to be pedestrians, they're probably not going to walk in front of the house. They're going to walk in the parking lot and cut across to H-E-B if they were walking. That's what I would do.
Okay.
Rocky Templin, District 6.
Yes, sir.
This is an example of, I think, infill lots, lots that don't need a sidewalk, that have been there for a long time. If I was going to walk, I'd cross the street and go walk down the church and go to the parking lot. I don't think I'd walk in front of these patio homes or zero lot line homes with a 15-foot setback. It looks like there could be some problems with utilities already there, water, sewer, fire, lights, street poles. So I don't think you need a sidewalk here. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right, anyone else wish to speak on this case? I'm going to close public comment. These are tough. Still don't have a sidewalk ordinance, and we're talking about sidewalks.
So the sidewalk ordinance is not in place, and so I am
That's
going
correct.
to make a motion to approve with the variances for, I know they said West Beauregard's okay, but I think that was included in the description, approve the variance of the street width and also sidewalks.
On both streets.
Yes.
Okay?
I think that's what we had the last time we did this.
I will point out, you mentioned last time we did this, that the sidewalks were required on the last plat. At that time, the applicant did not have any objection, so the variance was not approved because they didn't ask for it last time.
Thank you. We have a motion. Anyone wish to make a second?
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve with variances on both Moritz and Beauregard.
And
For street
sidewalks.
width, no sidewalks. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Aye. Let's do show of hands for opposition. 2,
5-2, okay.
so 5-2.
Thank you.
Allsip subdivision, section 1. Item D, request for approval of a final plat for Allsip San Angelo addition being 4.351 acres located at 4028 South Bryant Boulevard.
Okay, Jeff Fisher again, Chief Planner. This one's a giveaway, so it's Allsub subdivision, section 1. Allsubs wants to put a gas station. This is a one-lot subdivision. They own a portion up here that's a 20-foot access easement that already has that. That's probably right up here with the driveway. Zoning CG, southeast of South Bryant and South Jackson. It's just north of, if you all know Farmer's Daughter Landscaping, so it's just above that. District 6, or excuse me, that should be District 1, Tommy Hebert in the Rio Vista neighborhood. There's the subdivision there. So it conforms with the comprehensive plan and purpose statements. We did ask for a sidewalk here as well. TxDOT is proposed to be putting them in 2022. They have not submitted any construction plans yet, so per our policy, we are requiring them, and the applicant has agreed to that. They're in Orlando, so they could not be here today, but they just asked for support that you all approve this. This is the sidewalks that are proposed along in 2022. And then this is the property here with the sidewalk. So this one's pretty straightforward. Staff recommends approval of a final plat of all subdivision section 1 and recommends a sidewalk as agreed upon by the applicant adjacent to South Bryant Boulevard, subject to the 4 conditions of approval in your staff report. Tax certificate, couple changes on the plan. They just need to add the name of the plat, remove the trees and contours, show the location, city, state, and signature blocks. Drainage studies required, and fire hydrants and access, again, is noted on the plat. And then the sidewalk, again, can be deferred until time of permitting. Any questions?
Have questions for the staff? All right, thank you. We're going to open it up for public comment. Anyone wishing to speak on this case, please come forward, state your name, address, or single-member district. All right, we're going to close public comment. Anyone have additional questions or wish to make a motion?
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve as presented by the staff. All in favor, say aye. 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 Opposed? 7-0. Item 2 on the regular agenda is Plan Development Major Site Plan. Planning Commission has final authority for approval of Plan Development Major Site Plans. Appeals may be directed to the City Council. Item A, PD 18-03 Major Site Plan, 2680 and 2698 Camper Road. Request for approval of a major site plan within a planned development, PD 18-03, zoning district, to allow for additional accessory uses, including a new restaurant, water tank, and additional parking, being 40.58 acres located at 2680 and 2698 Camper Road.
Thank you all. So this is our next case today. In 2018, a plan development was approved for this area to allow a marina that was going to have RVs and boats. And it was just going to be this piece here, which I think is about 16 acres. And then in 2019, we worked on the amendment to this, and they had expanded that with a lease from City Council to go into this area, which is a little bit larger. When you combine the two areas, you get 40.63 acres. So the PD's in place, the ordinance standards are in place. They came in recently with a request to amend their site plan that was going to show the additional facilities, mainly a restaurant, additional parking, a splash pad, and a bunch of recreational items. And so that is allowed by the ordinance, but it did trigger a major site plan. So there's kind of a 3-tier process here. Either a little one is an administrative that director can approve, a major one needs to go to PC, and then a major text amendment would go to council. This is kind of the mid-range one. So we wanted the public to be notified, just given the amount of intensity of improvements, just to make sure there was a public process. So this is a major site plan. There's no changes on the ordinance. You're just basically reviewing the plan itself. District 1, Tommy Hebert in the Nasworthy neighborhood. Future land use is open space. It's in the PD. 6 notices were mailed out. We did receive 1 letter in opposition. I passed out within 200 feet. They were just worried about all the new uses and traffic, things like that could happen. This is the existing RV park with the convenience store. And then as you go further out to the northeast, I was showing you that second area. They've already got some RVs parked out there. And then the future development area will be kind of right at the crescent, I guess, at the end of the water. So staff is recommending approval on this because it does meet all the PD ordinance conditions. They'll have access off of Camper Road. They're not going to block roadway or fire circulation. The proposed uses, the closest residential property is 900 feet away when you measure it across the water and to the south. I just wanted to note this because I did get a couple phone calls about it. When we did the amendment, there was they called it the finger or the natural buffer, no build zone. That is further to the south of the RV park. So where their building is to the north, they will not be in that no build zone, and that was to adhere to the residents' concerns about being so close to Sleepy Hollow. So they're actually going the opposite direction. Any noise and lighting at the time of the site plan will have to comply. We do have a noise standard, so after 10:30, basically keep it down. And then if you've got any glare or whatever on the lights, make sure the lights are shielded. They didn't submit any lighting plans, so at this point, we're assuming it's fine. When they submit their site plan, we can address it then. 26 new parking spaces were shown, and they required 25 when you add the restaurant, the outdoor seating, and splash pad, so they'll be good on parking. This is the new major site plan that was submitted. So essentially what they did is they just, they pushed the RV spaces up over here. This is the no-build zone down here. So RVs, they've got some new parking lots, and then the restaurant, the dining area, the outdoor seating, and the splash pad. There's also a city water tank that was required that they're showing over here. But that's the full expansion proposal right there. And that's just a close-up of it. This was the site plan that was approved before. So the restaurant was kind of shown already as a square building called a cantina, but that's been removed and replaced with the circular design. Again, they've also still got a restroom building. The RVs were closer to Fisherman's Road, so they were pushed back a little bit. So it was roughly the same, but just a few more additional things. Staff recommends approval of a major site plan within a planned development 1803 zoning district to allow the additional accessory uses as presented. And one new condition of approval, the applicant shall submit a revised concept plan to the planning director for approval that removes the former proposed restroom building in front of the west parking lot. And so that's that little building there that was an outline. I believe that was just an oversight. So I've already talked to Mr. Broadway, and that can just be removed. That's not intended to be on the plan. We just wanted to note that. Any questions or comments?
I have several questions.
Okay.
Are you asking us to approve the uses or the site plan and the uses?
Just the site plan, so all the uses are already allowed.
Okay. So we're approving just the site plan, so the location within the site of the restaurant, the splash pad, the pads, all of that is under consideration.
That's correct.
Okay. Could you please go back to the aerial that shows the entire site? It's hard for me to understand with the documentation they've submitted exactly where this is going. So, okay, thank you.
Okay.
So the existing marina is much further to the west of the site. Is that correct?
That's correct.
That existing marina, that's on the bottom left, right?
That's right.
Can you mark it?
Yes. So this was approved, this was the original PD roughly here in 2018.
Yes.
And then this area was in 2019, and this is just a site plan change for just this area up here
Okay.
within the expansion.
So there's no changes being made to the original site, just the expanded area.
Correct.
Phase one, phase two. So
Yeah,
phase
so let's say
one
phase two.
isn't changing, phase two is changing.
Correct.
Okay. Now could you please go back to the detail? Okay. Now it's making sense. Okay. What kind of roads? Are these paved, or are they caliche, or?
I believe they are caliche roads. This part here is paved.
Phase one is paved.
Yep. And that was a condition of approval. Same with the parking. I think that the parking spaces could also be all-weather surface.
Okay. Are you saying that's a condition of phase two approval?
I would have to check the ordinance on the surfacing of the driveway, the internal driveway. I know that the parking can be all-weather. I would need to verify if what that condition was. I know it was approved in 2019, and so he did work on those improvements.
Okay. Anyone else have questions? Thank you. All right, we're going to open it up for public comment. If you wish to speak on this case, please come forward, state your name, address, or single-member district.
See If Mr. Broadway was here, I don't know.
Got some photos. We're gonna kind of backtrack on this a little. We got some photos of this buffer zone that was supposed to be kind of a wildlife, nobody go in it. What's done turned to a hunting zone, a trapping zone, and a trash zone, and a nighttime round track.
Sir, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Could you state your name again and your address?
Gary Pierce, Single District Number 1. We live on Sleepy Hollow.
2682.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We don't have a problem with what his restaurant, little campsite. He's not following up with this buffer zone that he said he was gonna just kind of leave it alone. Yes, natural habitat. We wake up at night, there's lights shining in our house. They're out there in pickups, four-wheelers. It looks like Sherwood Way going through there. You can see it in the pictures.
Okay, where is Sleepy Hollow on this map? Where does it come in? Is it, there's those 4 structures there.
Right
There we go.
there. Yeah, and the buffer is the piece of land, just that little finger they call.
Okay.
Are you able to mark that so we can actually see it?
And then our house would be right,
Hollow,
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
yeah.
and there's the buffer area.
So there's a Caliche Road that looks like it extends kind of along the southern part of, I'm going to call it Phase 1.
Right.
And runs over into Phase 2. Isn't there a chain or something that keeps you from taking Sleepy Hollow into
Right.
into that development?
Yes. There's like a pipe fence there.
Pipe fence, thank you.
Yes. Then he's done put up a chain link fence from the last house on Sleepy Road to that, heading towards that park campground, which that's fine.
Okay.
Can you mark on there where you took these?
Right in the buffer zone, right there.
Okay, so it's that first thing.
It's all trashed up, the whole thing.
It used to be clear, nothing there, and that was the whole point of it, is the buffer zone, so the houses on the other side.
Yes, ma'am.
We can see everything from our backyard.
And like I said, we don't oppose his
The development,
at all. No, we understand.
just want him to maintain
We
the
just-
buffer zone a little better.
Oh, yes, definitely.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm kind of questioning this water deal he's got to put down there, but if he's got to have it, he's got to have it. I don't understand is there not water down there for this restaurant? He's got to put in a water tower?
A water tank.
Yeah, I believe that's for fire protection purposes.
Okay.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Looks like we're going to get an explanation of the water tower. Are there any other concerns that you guys have?
We just want an explanation of this buffer zone.
Yes, sir.
I was
Got
just
it.
going to add on that. I was trying to pull up the lease, and I'm not finding it, but it's probably a term of his lease. And so what we can do is follow up with Carl White, who's the Parks and Rec director who administers that lease, and have him go check that out.
All right,
Gotta be a violation of that
all right,
lease.
thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
That's easy.
Good morning. I'm David Poe at 2686 Sleepy Hollow. My family lives can you touch the screen here? We're the second house from the end next to the Pierces. The Copelands are at the end of the road there. Like I said before, when we met last time, when they approved Phase 2, we're not in opposition of the expansion of the restaurant, but we now know it's not a restaurant, it's going to be a bar and grill, is what Jeff has said. My concern is, one, the buffer zone, like the Pierce has talked about, is junked up, and there is all kinds of activity with the golf cart activity at night, the trash. It's definitely in violation of the original agreement that nobody is holding them accountable. Nobody will hold them accountable. And the other problem is, we talked before, we're maxed out on sewer on that side of the lake. And we agreed, there's kind of a, I don't know how many spots they asked for on the Phase 2. I don't know if this rearrangement of the spots, instead of up here on this finger by the
So I'm going to pull in for you, if that's all right.
Okay.
I'll show you a better plan.
Okay, this right here is the new situation of the trailers. On Phase 2, when we came last time, it was up here next to the water. They're moving them closer back towards the housing development, closer to the finger, which is right here. That was not part of the original Phase 2 that you guys approved last time. Once again, we're not in opposition, but I believe this right here would max out the complete sewer capabilities on that side of the lake. They would not be able to do any further expansion. No further homes would need to be added until they did the major approval of the multi-million-dollar sewer expansion across Lake Nasworthy. So we are concerned about the location of the trailers. Not that they're being there, just the location is moved. It's like we have to worry about this every 6 to 8 months, that the goal line's being moved and we have to come fight for it again, and that the finger is being protected there from all of the housing development. Also, too, you talked about the paved surfaces. Last time you guys approved that they could do the gravel or the caliche surfaces. I'm still in opposition of that. You require all commercial properties in town that are built. If you're going to do it for one, you need to do for all. They're having to do asphalt or concrete surfaces at all the other commercial and restaurant facilities. It's not fair for the business owners that spend their hard-earned dollars to have to do hard services, and you exempt it because it's at the lake. I understand that the other properties out here around the RV park have caliche, and they were grandfathered in, but if you're going to do new expansion, you're opening yourself up that everybody should be approved to do gravel, and it's just not fair for all the other businesses, and I'll be champion for those businesses if you allow it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Does RV parks, do they, I didn't know they were connected to city. I thought they were individual septic tanks. Is that not true? I thought the RV spots had individual.
I think Phase 1 is on city. Phase 2, I don't know. Are there
anybody in RV park? I thought that they had individual.
No, I
They're
don't
not?
think
They go right in? Okay.
My name's Ray Broadway. I'm the one out there at Spring Creek Marina. So to address your sewer issue, it runs through our sewer system, and yes, it does connect to the city. And we worked with Allison Struby on that, not to overload the city. We looked at where it dumps into, and it's not going to cause any issues as far as they're concerned.
Okay.
And to back up and address one issue that the last gentleman had, this section here has never moved. That section is in phase before. This section was up here, and we decided to move it back there, which in the original design, it says future RV spots. But we just moved it back there and kept it off that grass and treed area due to we had a couple events out there this year, and it made more sense to put them up there instead of tearing all that grass and all them trees out, to use a lot of what's already kind of existing there and just expand on that and not disturb more ground over there. I would like to see, if I haven't seen those pictures of that finger one, I haven't been in town or the state for a while, so if there's an issue out there, it will be solved today.
What are there's four structures, it looks like, kind of on the bottom of that site plan. Yes, sir.
Those are all storage that was approved.
Like self-storage
Storage
type?
buildings like boat and RV storage.
Boat and RV storage, okay.
Yes, this will be solved today. Yep.
Thank you. Anyone else have questions for the applicant? No. Thank you, sir. Anyone else wish to speak on this case? All right. I'm going to close public comment and open it up to my colleagues here for discussion. And maybe some additional questions. So we're only focused on phase 2.
Correct.
Are the slips, the RV sites that are in phase 2 here, do all of them have utilities?
I'm going to defer that to, sorry for the acoustics here. I'm going to defer that back to Mr. Broadway or city engineering for that answer.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Sorry I didn't ask that when you were up here.
Yes, they will.
Okay, do they have utilities now?
No construction started because we've asked for this
Okay.
to move that row over.
Okay. And then going back to this larger site plan, there's a road that runs along the south portion of what I'm calling phase 1. That's a Caliche Road. Jeff, could you pull up the larger site plan, please? There we go. So just south of the red, coming off of, I guess it's, connecting Fisherman's Road and Sleepy Hollow. Is that an emergency access
Yes.
road only? It's not a primary road?
Only time it's been used so far is during boat races.
Okay.
That's what I understood as well from my memory from 2019 is that Sleepy Hollow, they would not be able to get access from Sleepy Hollow into the property. And that was to protect the residents that lived on Sleepy
I was going to
Hollow.
say, I look at this, and that would be one of my concerns if I was a resident on Sleepy Hollow, is allowing traffic to move that close to the residents there.
We did discuss that back then, I remember it.
I did too. I just
There's a barrier about here, and I've put one up here to prevent traffic from either direction, I guess.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone else have questions? All right. Well, I like the expansion of this area. I like adding RV sites and a restaurant. I'd like to see pavement through this area, especially to the restaurant and splash pad area. It's a maintenance nightmare if it's not paved, in my opinion. And a nuisance. There's going to be a lot of cars probably going up and down those roads.
Travis, are you asking for just around the restaurant or all, like, leading in from phase 1?
I think it should be paved through the development, personally. I don't know why we would allow gravel roads. If this is a true expansion of an RV park and you've got, I know phase 1 has asphalt roads running through it. And mature trees, it's a nice development. This tract out here is, I think they put caliche or gravel out for makeshift pad sites for some of the larger events. It's all city-owned land, and it's, how long has the lessor of Phase 1 had access to what we're calling Phase 2 up to this point, or is what we're reviewing and approving the expansion and access of that area?
No, all of the expansion and access were approved as part of the 2019 amendment for Phase 2. So really what y'all are looking at today isn't parking or access. Staff can go back later and check to see if there were any requirements from the previous approval that weren't met. Those would be, so even the paving, that would be tied to the previous approval. But today, all you're looking at is the new buildings. Is that appropriate that those buildings are out there on that new site plan?
Okay. If we're talking about adding buildings, we can talk about pavement, can't we?
Sure.
Okay.
I think the limitation would be on specifically the area where they're adding buildings. For example, I don't think you could go now and say, without bringing the whole plan development back, you couldn't say all the RV spaces have to be paved, because that's already been approved and is not being modified with this.
Okay. Do all the RV spaces have to have utility connections?
I believe so.
Okay. That would be, to me, that would be another requirement that I would want to set on RV spaces. If we're adding spots for folks to park, they need to be able to hook up to utilities. And so now we have this issue with the sewer line. It's being tied to the sewer line. We're adding a restaurant and bar, so we're adding more demand into the sewer, and we've got pads that may or may not be connected. These are major concerns that I have when I look at this change to the plan.
Now, it's my understanding that we're only looking at the second row being moved. The first row has already been approved with the paving the way it is. It's already got the electrical and other water connections. So for our discussion, we're only looking at the second row, which would have potential paving on one and not the other. Is that correct? Because we're only looking at the second row.
So the first row has 8 slots.
Correct.
Again, I think we would be hesitant to recommend, or I think we would need to do a little more research, since the plan development itself, the text of the plan development allows those caliche roads. Since we're looking at only a modification to the site plan, where we're talking about locations of things, I don't believe we can address the underlying regulations of pavement, even for the new buildings. Again, like Jeff mentioned earlier, those uses have all been approved already. You're just looking at the location on the site. Is that an appropriate location for those uses that are already allowed? And again, those underlying site development standards are part of the plan development itself. So even changing, requiring paving, I don't think we could do as part of this action today. I think that would have to come back as a plan development amendment that would ultimately be approved by City Council.
Okay.
Yeah, we're not asking. Actually, the buildings and stuff, they're pretty much all in the same place. The biggest change is moving that one row back, but they're all gonna have full hookups, full everything.
Okay.
And the plan stays the same, it's just flopping that one row over just to the other row from here to here is all it does.
Was the restaurant there before?
Yes, I was
Okay.
all there before, yeah. And now it's just a different.
Oh,
shape
this
of
is the
building.
old plan.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, Mr. Broadway?
Circular.
Everything's there.
If I read this correctly, I think you're right. So this was the old plan. So your new plan is now going to, this row is going to be moved back on I can't do it from here, but the front row's gone.
Yep.
The future RV spaces now become a new
Yes.
row, and then there's a third row past that, correct?
There's only 2 rows total of RVs.
This row down here, the future RV spots have been moved a little bit to the south. I think that was the concern of one of the residents, but still outside of the no-build zone.
Okay.
Is Fisherman's Road paved all the way around over there?
Sort of.
It appears to be on Google
Yeah.
Earth, and I drove all the way around there, but is the existing RV park over, is it paved?
No.
Okay, it didn't
There's
look
nothing
like
inside
it, but I
that
just,
park paved.
just Fisherman's Road?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay. Fisherman's Road's paved. I thought the interior of that the Phase 1 was paved. It's not. Okay. Thank you. I'm going to open it back up for public comment.
Pierce again.
Yes, sir.
If you do a site plan in 2018, how long is it good for? Or if you approve it in 19, how long is it good for?
I can answer that, sir. So it's like zoning, it stays indefinitely until there's a change.
So everything that he approved in 18, like Cleachy roads, and now he's changing it, moving things around, you still have to honor everything he said in 18? Like
Correct. Like if he comes in for building permits for these new uses, and you know what staff can do, or myself, we would go back and check to make sure that all of the existing requirements were met. So if there was supposed to be a paved road in there, then that would have to be done before this could be. If there's any deficiencies, we would investigate that. But that's why we did this as we did with the PD process, is to have a public meeting if someone makes a major change like that, so that we can discuss.
How long is it good for?
So it's, like I said, it's indefinite, so if this one gets approved, then that becomes, and again, just to clarify the terminology in the zoning ordinance, this is not a building permit site plan, this is a conceptual plan. So if he comes in, moves this slightly to the right, or takes off one parking space, that's probably okay, but this is just a general concept of what he's going to do, and the building permit site plan should be generally consistent with that.
Okay. But you're not answering my question.
Okay.
If you approve this site plan in 2018, 19, and he hasn't done anything, when he comes in 2030 and wants to change, I mean, does this just go on and on and on? And you still go retroactive back to?
Mr. Pierce, I think I can answer that.
Okay.
If he doesn't change, he can do it whenever he wants.
Okay.
If he changes it, he has to come back before us and get
Okay.
approvals.
Okay, and start over?
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's it. All right.
Thank you.
David Poet, Sleepy Hollow again. I think we just opened the box up now, so the question that was supposed to be addressed in 19, which has not been addressed today, is, I was waiting for it, and you opened me up great, Jeff, is how does the public get access to the restaurant? Because you have to pay to get into the park, and it was supposed to be addressed last time, but we swept it under the rug. So is now the park free to the public?
Thank you.
Because this is a very
Good
important
question.
question that needs to be decided today, and that needs to go to city, that recommendation needs to follow to city council immediately. Because you can't open up a restaurant unless we decide if the public's gonna get in free to the park and they're gonna lose out on all the revenue from here on out, and that park is gonna stay free to the public, or is everybody gonna be charged to go to the restaurant? Thank you.
So I guess the answer to that would be, there is a lease agreement with the city, so if there's no stipulations in that lease agreement, then I believe it would fall back to the applicant whether he wants to charge or not, unless, again, there was something that the city required.
I think what the gentleman's referring to is a $3 fee when you come to the city park, not my park. So during the season, outside my park, you have to pay to go in and camp in the city.
Yes,
So you
sir.
have to go out, I think that's what he's referring
Well,
to.
there's a little station.
Yes.
That you have to pass on
Yes.
Fisherman Road to get to your development or to the park.
Yes. And during the season, you have to pay to come to my store to get anything. You have
Okay.
to pay at that booth, and that's what he was saying is the public can also be charged to go down to any businesses like they are now, pretty much.
So no matter the circumstance, if that station is manned, the person's gonna pay $3 whether they come
Yes.
to you or any other part of the park.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
That part of it, I think, is used for the $3 that you pay is used for the maintenance of the entire park.
Right.
Replacement of facilities within the park. So I don't think Mr. Broadway has any opportunity to change that.
I think I agree. Okay, so the question about the utilities, are you saying that the 2019, excuse me, approval, that we've addressed that already?
Yes, so that whatever was with the roads or utilities was addressed in 2019.
Okay.
And so if there's any deficiencies that they haven't worked out or they fail to work out prior to permitting, we would flag that and make them fix that.
Okay. And the roads are part of that as well?
Correct.
Okay. So the only changes that I see are the RV slips moving back. We've moved a row back. Is that it?
That's right, and then the new building, so the dining area is a circle instead of a square, and then the new parking and the splash pad, and the water tank. So if, let's say, a few new structures, and then the RV's moving back.
Okay. We've added a splash pad.
Correct.
Water tank.
And the outdoor
Water tank
seating.
for?
Fire.
Okay.
The water storage for fire protection
Okay.
purposes.
Great.
I personally like the movement of the units because, as Mr. Broadway stated, the tearing down of the trees, the tearing down of the grass, I think would unbeautify, for lack of better words, that area. Right now, it is a buffer zone. So when you're looking in, if those were to remain, they kind of hide that area from the lake itself. So I make a motion to approve as presented by the staff.
Okay, before we take this motion, I'm going to close public comment because I had opened it back up. So now we have a motion on the floor to approve as presented.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve as presented. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? 7-0. Rezonings. City Council has final authority for approval of rezoning Z21-16, 2115 and 2117 Gunter Street. Request for approval of a rezoning from the single-family residential zoning district to the general commercial zoning district located at 2115 and 2117 Gunter Street.
Thank you all. 0.23 acres. These are two lots. They're both 5,000 square feet. And so they want to rezone this. This is in that South Bryant commercial corridor. It's designated commercial in our comprehensive plan. So they want to go to CG, and we would support the CG. One caveat is that each lot needs to be 6,000 square feet, and the lots are only 5,000. So they will be signing a unity or a joinder agreement with the city prior to it going to council. So we've made that a note, and the applicant has agreed to that, and that'll make the entire lot 10,000 square feet, and so allow the development. They've discussed different options. I guess at this time, we'll just say future commercial development, and the CG allows a lot of different things. We've approved several in this South Bryant corridor over the last 2 or 3 years, rezonings within 1 or 2 blocks either way. So this is in that area. This is in District 3, Harry Thomas and Rio Vista. So commercial's the future land use, which goes all the way down to R. Just for proximity purposes, this is the HTO up here, the new tea shop. So that's just going to be another commercial development next to that. And they're going from RS1 to CG. 60 notices were mailed out. Staff did not receive any responses. This is looking from Bryant. So there's an existing house, a very old home on the property. As far as we know at this time, they're going to keep that home that crosses over the property lines, or they can choose to demolish that in the future either way. This is South Bryant Boulevard. Looking west, there's another commercial development, so it's pretty much all retail commercial in that area. It does have a double frontage on Gunter Street, so when they come in for permitting, obviously we're going to try to encourage development from the Bryant side and maybe have a rear access, but not try to discourage any any traffic coming off of Gunter Street. And there's the new tea shop. So this one's pretty straightforward. It's compatible with the comprehensive plan. Staff recommends approval of a rezoning from RS1 to CG. And then there's the note about the jointer lot agreement. Any questions?
We have questions for the staff? Thank you, Jeff. I'll open it up for public comment. Anyone wish to speak on this case, please come forward, state your name and address. All right, I'm going to close public comment. Anyone wish to make a motion?
Make a motion to approve as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve as presented by the staff. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? 7-0. CU 21-18, 411 North Park Street. Request for approval of a conditional use to allow a short-term rental in the two-family residence zoning district located at 411 North Park Street. Oh, I'm sorry. I skipped it. Conditional uses. The Planning Commission has final authority for approval of conditional uses. Appeals may be directed to the City Council. Item A, CU 21-17, 2330 Fisherman's Road, a request for approval of a conditional use to allow short-term rental in the single-family residential zoning district located at 2330 Fisherman's Road.
This is CU 2117, 2330 Fisherman's Road. It's a request for approval of short-term rental conditional use, and they missed their renewal date. There are no complaints on record. It's District 1, Tommy Hybert, and in the Nasworthy neighborhood. This is future land use and current zoning. It's in neighborhood, future use, and RS1 is its current zoning. These are images of the rental house, the front, and the side entrance. And the notification map, 8 notices were mailed out, 0 in favor and 1 opposed. And I believe the opposition came from thinking that there was another short-term rental within 500 feet of this one on Fisherman's Road, but we had checked and it was actually further west of there, out of the 500-foot buffer. And our rationale is impacts minimized. Owners upgraded the landscaping and opaque separation fence on the right. And consistent with zoning ordinance, ample parking on the front lot front, maintaining the single-family appearance of the home. Compatible with surrounding area. The home and boat dock with patio is similar to every other single home along Fisherman's Road. Effect on natural environment. We do not believe there is any impact on the environment. Community need. San Angelo still is in need of rental housing, especially near the lake. And development patterns. This is a neighborhood, and the short-term rental nature of the house does not impact the home, and is still a single-family residence. And our recommendation is approval of a conditional use to allow short-term rental at 2330 Fisherman's Road, subject to 3 conditions of approval. Maintain all off-street parking on the premises. Maintain the short-term rental operation in a manner consistent with the zoning ordinance, including a required renewal after the first year, then every 2 years after. And we'll need a fire marshal inspection and a building inspection for a change of occupancy.
What does that mean?
For a change of occupancy?
Yeah.
Because it's going from single family to
Right, to
short-term.
a short-term rental. And even though it was a short-term rental, he missed the renewal date, so it fell back to basically RS1.
So this is like starting over again.
Exactly.
So he's going to have to apply again in a year?
Yes.
Correct.
Okay.
So on that, following Luke on that, so basically it is RS1, and you can live in a short-term rental and then rent it out. So I don't understand what that's saying. If I had a short-term rental, I could live there part of the time and rent it part of the time.
No, so if they rent it out, the owner has to leave and then the short-term
Right.
renter would stay.
Right.
What, that condition 3 is in the zoning ordinance, it's just standard procedure, so they come in to do a short-term rental and they get an occupancy for a short-term rental.
Okay.
And then part of that is a fire marshal inspection and a building inspection.
Okay, I was overthinking it. I was thinking
That's okay.
anytime I go back to my own home, you want to inspect it again. It's like, I don't think so.
Thank you, Jeff.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, City of San Angelo.
That'll
Yeah.
be good.
Okay, sorry.
All right. Thanks, Kyle. Open it up for public comment. Anyone wish to speak on this case, please come forward, state your name, your address, or your single-member district. I'm going to close public comment. Anyone wish to make a motion?
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve as presented. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? 7-0. Item B, CU 21-18, 411 North Park Street, request for conditional use to allow short-term rental in the two-family residential zoning district located at 411 North Park Street.
Chair Stribling, just on the last item, I heard you say aye opposed, but then you said 7-0, so would that be 6-1?
He meant he was voting yes, and then he
Yeah,
asked for
I voted
opposed.
aye, and then I
Oh,
said
aye,
opposed.
as in, okay.
And
No,
there
no
was
problem.
one. Sorry.
No, it's okay.
7-0.
Okay. Our next conditional use, also for a short-term rental, this is brand new, 411 North Park Street, 0.160 acres, District 4, Luisa Gonzalez in the central neighborhood. So this conditional use, brand new, the street is about 36 feet wide with a sidewalk, and there's no short-term rentals within 500 feet, so it meets the basic criteria to move it forward. The zoning is RS2. Staff received one letter in opposition I passed out, just concerned about traffic and things like that in the area. None in support. This is the home looking west at the property, so the minimum of 2 parking spaces required for a short-term rental. They've got 5 on that long driveway, and then 1 can fit inside the carport, so a total of 6. So they're well above the parking. They're very close to downtown on the Riverwalk. Right next to them is the commercial strip along Houston Hart, so they're probably within 5 minutes of downtown, very close to Central High School and amenities. This is looking south on South Park. So it meets the criteria of 208F and 406 of the zoning ordinance, and for those reasons, we are in support of approval, subject to 3 conditions. The owner shall maintain the required 2 off-street parking spots. They shall register with the state of Texas and city of San Angelo for the purpose of hotel occupancy tax. That's just a condition also spelled out in the zoning ordinance, and obtain a certificate of occupancy from permits and inspections, and that includes the building and the fire inspection. Any questions or comments?
Questions for the staff? Thank you, Jeff. I'm going to open it up for public comment. If you wish to speak on this case, please come forward, state your name, address, single member district.
Rocky Templin, single member District 6. I own the piece of property across the street, 412 North Park. And so I'm in opposition to this because I think it's going to create some late night parties and a bunch of traffic. And if the code enforcement would inspect, I think they would find the sidewalk is in code violation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Templin. Anyone else wish to speak on this case? Please come forward. All right, we're going to close public comment. Anyone wish to share their thoughts or make a motion?
Motion to approve is presented.
We have a motion and a second to approve as presented. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? 7-0. CU 21-19, 121 South Bishop. A request for approval of conditional use to allow for short-term rental in the two-family residential zoning district located at 121 South Bishop Street.
This is CU 21-19, measuring 0.241 acres, located northwest corner of the Bishop Street and Colorado Street intersection, District 5, vacant council seat in the Santa Rita neighborhood. The vision plan and zoning districts are neighborhood center and two-family residential RS2 for the subject property. There were 12 notices mailed out. I have the notices here in person. There were 3 in opposition, actually, I believe 4 in opposition. Let me get them. But 2 in support. 13 and 14 were in support. 6, 12, 4, and 1 were all in opposition. Yes, that's correct. These are the site photos of the subject property. View along Bishop Street. Staff's rationale is that the location is in close proximity to West Beauregard Avenue, and which is a major arterial, and it is also in relatively close proximity to minor collectors, Washington Street and North Jefferson Street. The proposed use is consistent with the zoning ordinance, and it is compatible with the surrounding areas such that it is in relatively close distance to many amenities, including the Rio Concho Riverwalk. The effect on the natural environment is negligible. The community need is evident. There is no other short-term rental within 500 feet. And the development pattern as proposed is consistent with the vision plan and general development of a residential neighborhood. Staff recommends approval of CU-2019 or 2119, a request for a conditional use for a short-term rental property, zone RS2 being 0.241 acres at 121 South Bishop Street. Does Planning Commission have any questions for staff?
Raphael, could you go back through your pictures? They were pretty fast and I missed some. Thank you. Bright sunshine that day.
Pretty day that.
Is there one more before that?
Just the front of the property and then along either
Down the
side of the
street.
street.
Okay.
That's right.
Thank you.
Do you have any, on the opposing remarks, were there any comments or?
Yes, most of the comments were regarding parking, traffic, and some concerns of property values. But I'm not sure if those are justified. The parking and traffic, as we mentioned, the streets, the functional classification of the street would allow for such a development, such a use.
And is it a single-family home?
That's correct. Well, actually, it's zone 2 family residential, RS2.
Right, but the
it is
improvements are a
single-family.
single-family home?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. All right, any more questions for the staff? All right, we're going to open it up for public comment. If you wish to speak on this case, please come forward, state your name and address or single-member district.
South Bishop. And she had a couple questions. She's 84 and she's had a stroke, and so she says it relates to.
Would you mind coming closer to the mic? I'm sorry.
Sure. Better?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep. Do you want me to start over?
If you don't mind.
Yeah.
Sorry.
My name's Rick Crumley. I'm here on behalf of my aunt, Mary Menezes, who's the property owner of 115 South Bishop. She had a couple questions. She's currently, because of a medical condition, is, and had a stroke, so she's not here. Under your guidelines in the city of San Angelo, are you not allowed to have another use within 500 feet if they, I see a couple heads going.
Short-term rental, you can't
Okay,
have.
so
Yes.
that'll be the only one within a 500 feet area.
Correct.
Okay, and that's for perpetuity, or unless they lose their standing or their ability
Able
to?
to renew their, with the city, then a different short-term rental could come within the vicinity, and then this one would not be allowed any longer. There's only one per 500-foot radius.
Okay.
So they do have to approve within 1 year, And normally during that 1 year, it's kind of a baking timeframe where if there are issues, then it is brought back up, and that is a factor whether it's approved or not for renewal. And then after that, it's 2 years. But the first year is that buffer zone, just to make sure that there's not any issues, to the other residents around it.
So, you sent out notices to, I think, was it 12 or 21 houses?
Everyone within, is it 200 feet?
I believe it was 12 notifications total.
Well, so you had 4 in opposition. I think she'd be opposed to this based on the fact that, not really knowing what that would do with property values may decrease it. And
Yes, sir.
seems like a good neighborhood. You have a nice city here, and seem to be doing a good job and getting better.
To add to Mr. Aguirre's comments, after the year is up, one of the things that we review are any police report calls to the home and the code enforcement folks. So if there are issues, we don't want to allow those folks to continue to operate a short-term rental.
Well,
So-
I've noticed on that block, there's maybe a catfish parlor, and there used to be a Home Hardware, used to be a hardware store.
Yes, sir.
Next door, way back.
Ace, I remember it.
Yeah. And so your regs in your city, your ordinances, if it's commercial, I guess that stays as commercial home hardware, or whatever it is called now.
Yes.
And catfish parlors on the same block. You have other things across the street. Do you have a different designation if it's commercial compared to residential or short-term rental? If you're commercial, can you be multifamily?
No, not in this city. I guess there could be conditional uses that might allow it, and I'll defer to John on the zoning.
Yeah, in terms of this property, it stays residential, so it would have to be either single-family residential or the short-term rental. In terms of the adjacent commercial, like Travis said, we generally don't allow multifamily in commercial, although there's a special approval process that you can go through to get that.
I mean, if somebody rehabbed or knocked down the home hardware building.
Yes.
Then come before you and rezone it again.
Yes, sir.
Okay, or replat or whatever you need to do.
Yes, sir. And the other clarification I want to make, this is, this lot is actually zoned for two-family residence. So it has a single-family home on it, but if someone were to purchase property in this two-family residence, they could build a duplex within the current zoning for that land. And I think the reason it was done that way is because you're so close to commercial, it's kind of a buffer between the single-family neighborhood and the commercial on the Beauregard frontage.
And so based on the fact that you have, 4 opposition out of 12, it's up to you all to decide whether to approve it or not.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, I think in this case, she would oppose, and if you need a POA from me or something to verify that, since she had a stroke, she can't
Yes.
sign her name, so.
Yes, sir.
If something needs to be done there.
So in the counts that we received from the staff, she was not included in that?
No.
Is that right, Raphael?
I have her letter back here, so
Okay.
and it's forwarded to me, and.
I want to make sure that we get it properly documented.
Sure.
So actually it was 16 letters, or rather 18. And where would the property be, sir?
Is this the subject property here too? It'd be
Yeah, I don't-
10. Next door.
So was there 12 or 18 notices?
That's confusing. He said 4 in opposition.
Yeah.
This is a little different here, so.
It is. That's why we're.
18 notices mailed out, this says 12, so.
That's exactly why we're talking to him about it, Mr. Crumley.
It is 18. And the only one that's not marked would be 10 and 4. Those were received today.
So it'll be 5 opposed.
So 5
Total.
of the 18? No, there's, I think, 2 or 3 in support. I had 2 that Raphael noted. I don't know if that includes what's in the paperwork that's coming your direction or not. Are they in favor? Yes. Is that one reflected in your 2 that you gave us? That's correct. So we have 5 oppose, 2 in favor. That's correct. Within the notification area? Yes, sir. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Crumley. Thank you. Appreciate it. Anyone else wish to speak on this case? All right, I'm going to close public comment. This one's difficult in my mind because there's clearly opposition immediately proximal to the site, but I think it is a perfect candidate for a short-term rental use because of that buffer that I alluded to, its proximity to commercial. So, does anyone wish to share their thoughts or make a motion?
I have a question for Jeff. So I don't remember on this, if this is denied at this time, can they bring it back at a later date? And how long is that? Is it 6 months?
That may be a legal question. I don't believe that's spelled out in the zoning ordinance, how long they have to wait.
I thought it was in the short-term rental documentation.
Zoning, I know it's a year. If it's a more intense use, I'm not sure about CUs.
The only thing I'm thinking is, most of those letters that we received don't understand what the short-term rental is, how long it lasts, any of those things. So what I'm thinking is if the owner could visit with these 5 people and also with the 2 in support and get them to be their cheerleaders, that might help because it is a good area for that type of property.
We could continue it.
To be continued.
Yes, you could table it till the next meeting to allow that to.
If you so felt.
Piggybacking off of Terry, and I've brought it up in the past, I feel like the notices that do get mailed out either lack explanation. The average citizen probably doesn't understand the difference between a regular rental and a short-term rental. And I really do think that there needs to be additional literature attached to the notices to explain, the amount of parking or exactly, like Terry said, a lot of these need explanation on short-term rental, concern about parking on street, concern about increased traffic. I really think that there should be something attached, not just a letter with a map that's circled, because the average citizen doesn't know, and I think that's why a lot of other cases, we get 0 letters back at all, because people just don't know what it is.
Thank you for your comments.
What I recall about short-term rental was that this is was a very contentious.
It was.
Argument, and
yes.
And the arguments that we're seeing now are very similar to what we've seen in the past, but I agree with Travis. I think it's in a good location. I think it's, got a good buffer zone, but that's just my feelings on it, that I don't know if continuing it would bring anything to us. I think the individuals, as we've seen before, are, they don't really understand it and they're scared of it, as I would if someone moved next to me. But the law is the law, and I do believe this is a good area.
I'm just looking at it. It's in RS2 zoning and butts up 1 lot over to general commercial, heavy commercial.
Yes.
What's that, 200 feet away? It's one.
It's in the notification area.
1 block end away is
Yep.
low-rise multifamily, which is more interior into the neighborhood than this is.
Does the zoning change from RS2 to RS1 south of Colorado?
Yeah, we can go back to that map, but it does change. I
that's
can't remember
actually-
if it's Colorado or Tuig, but it's.
Colorado.
Colorado is general commercial as well. So it's surrounded by even more intense uses. Definitely sounds like in those letters, responses, that it just needs more explanation. Just a lack of understanding about what it's allowed in a short-term rental.
And to me, one of the big talking points of short-term rentals when we went through that debate, I thought it was important to maintain the appearance of the home as it should be, whether it's short-term rental or otherwise. So no signage, nothing that you could drive past the house and say, oh, well, that's a short-term rental. You wouldn't know if it was a short-term rental or any other rental property or if it was owned by the occupants. So
I would also make the argument that, you know, when we passed this, well, I don't even remember what year it was. Was it 18 or 19? 18? Anyway, that doesn't matter. You know, the whole idea of coming to the planning commission for the permit, the conditional use is, we're not up here every case to argue whether or not STRs are good or bad or ugly, right? We've already done that. So our job today is this particular home following all the criteria that we already passed, right? There's always going to be opposition, whether you live by one or next door to one or whatever it is. But the fact of the matter is that we have already created this ordinance. It is already legal. Does this house, are these folks doing everything that the ordinance states? And if it is or isn't is what we're up here to do. Not argue property values and things of that nature, right? I mean, I would argue that I don't think you can do anything in Tom Green County to bring down your property values at this point in time. I mean, you can argue property values all day long. I've never seen mine go down for anything. But we're here to make sure that they're following all the criteria, right? And if they are, then they deserve to have this thing passed. This is my opinion. The other thing is, when you look at the actual property, an STR are held to a higher standard than we are, right? Because every year, well, first year, but every 2 years after that, the city is going to be saying what's going on in this property, whereas they don't do that to us ever, right? So they're held to a higher standard. So anyway.
Or just a normal long-term rental.
Correct.
You're absolutely right.
That is correct.
And that's just for the public too, to clarify. So a short-term rental, as well as those additional standards they'd be held to, is less than 30 days. But somebody has an RS1 property with a single-family home can still rent it out for as long as they want. The difference is that would be more than 30 days, and a short-term rental is less than 30.
So, Jody, you have a motion?
Anyone wish to make a motion?
I move to accept as presented.
All right, we have a motion to approve.
Second.
And we have a second. We have a motion and a second to approve as presented by the staff. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? 7-0.
Thank you.
CU 21-20. 2181A, Gun Club Road. Request for approval of conditional use to allow short-term rental in a single-family residential zoning district located at 2181A, Gun Club Road.
Thank you all. Jeff Fisher again. So this one is a renewal. This is going to be their third renewal. So they did a 1 year and then a 2 year and then another 2 year. So this will be another 2 years. Some of you that been here on the board for a few years might recognize this. This is a split property. So it's legally one lot, but their parking is on the north property with this carport, and then the south is their home onto the lake. District 1, Tommy Hebert in the Nasworthy neighborhood. Zoning's RS1. We received one letter in support from this neighbor up here. I'm going to go over this really quickly because we've already covered this for several years now. This is west and east. So this is the property. They share a carport here. They've got the two parking spots, and then on the south side you can see the home. No police complaints or code violations were received in the last 2 years. We have verification of that. They've also been very helpful in providing their They emailed me their hotel tax statements, so they're up to date for the last 2 years as well. They've got the 2 parking spaces, and they're located along Lake Nasworthy. So staff's recommending approval of the renewal. The owner shall maintain the 2 parking spots and obtain another certificate of occupancy from permits and inspections. Any questions?
Questions for the staff? No. Thank you, Jeff. Can I open it up for public comment? If you wish to speak on this case, please come forward, state your name, address, or single-member district. All right, I'm going to close public comment. Anyone wish to make a motion? We have a motion and a second to approve as presented. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? No one. 7-0. Sign variance. Planning Commission has final authority for approval of sign variances. Appeals may be directed to the City Council. SV 21-01, 3151, and 3251 North Bryant Boulevard. Request for approval of sign variances for a freestanding sign to allow a sign height of 70 feet in lieu of the maximum height of 50, and a sign area of 492 square feet in lieu of the maximum allowed 300 in the CGCH zoning district, being 8.567 acres located at the southwest corner of North Bryant Boulevard and West 32nd Street.
This is SV 2101, 3151 North Bryant Boulevard.
I'm sorry, correction, it's West 33rd Street. Sorry, go ahead.
It's okay.
Thank you, Kyle.
West of Bryant Boulevard, south of West 33rd Street. District 2, Tom Thompson, Riverside Neighborhood. And variances for maximum sign area and sign height are both the request on this one. This is future use and zoning. Future is commercial. The current zoning is CGCH. This is the concept plan, and I believe right here where the little red dash is where the sign is proposed to go. So that'd be at the southeast corner of this project. And here is an image of the sign. It's 492 square feet sign area requested. 300 square feet is what's allowed currently. And they're requesting a 70-foot tall sign, 20 feet over the 50-foot allowed. And these are some images of the area. As you can see, there are tall freestanding signs, but nothing greater than 50 feet. This is along looking south on North Bryant Boulevard and north on North Bryant Boulevard. And a few more images of the area, just to get an idea. If you notice, the terrain's also flat, so no topographic challenges for signs or anything like that. Practical difficulty of unnecessary hardship. Topography is relatively flat, which, like I just said. Traffic light at Bryant Boulevard / West 33rd will reduce speeds and increase visibility of surrounding signage. Rationale, special circumstances or conditions. Signs within height and area maximums can be seen clearly in both directions, as shown by the pictures. Not created by applicant. Applicant created created circumstances by choosing to erect larger than necessary signs. General harmony with sign ordinance, no. Main sign height 40% taller and 64% greater in area than ordinance allows. Minimum variance necessary, minimum is not met. All other signs within 2-mile radius obtained permits and met ordinance provisions or were non-conforming. And does not depart from ordinance more than required. Main sign area over half of what is allowed. Other options, off-site signage and reduced sign area would eliminate need for variances. And our recommendation is denial of a sign variance from section 124005B1 of the sign ordinance to allow freestanding on-site sign with a maximum sign area of 492 square feet in lieu of the maximum 300 square feet, and a maximum sign height of 70 feet in lieu of the maximum 50 feet in the CGCH zoning district.
However, if it's, I was just going to say, and if it's okay for the record, this was brought before you a couple of years ago, and when they first started developing this truck stop, and so it is reduced a little bit, but it's a substantial deviation. Originally, I think it was an 88-foot tall sign. So now Kyle's application is 70. He's looking at, and then the sign area was $770, and it's gone down to, I think it's $450 or $492.
That's correct. However, if commission does move to approve this, the one condition of approval is that the applicant shall obtain sign permits from the Permits and Inspection Division. Thank you.
Kyle, can you go back to those pictures of the signs, just the area? And are those 50-foot signs or what, like those Walgreens?
Yes, ma'am. Those are either 50 feet max or smaller, shorter.
Okay, I thought that, like
And
the Shell
if-
sign, and those are the.
If not, that might be a grandfathered sign that had been there before the ordinance was
Right.
approved at 50 feet.
Okay, can you go back another one? I think there's some more new. Okay, Walgreens is newer, and yeah, okay, great, thank you very much.
Anyone else have questions for the staff? Thank you, Kyle.
Sir.
We're going to open it up for public comment. If you wish to speak on this, please come forward, state your name, address, single member district. Morning.
My name is Kevin Fryer from Print Signs in Houston. I'm representing the Kent companies today here on this project. First order of business, can we go back to the picture of the actual proposed sign? Do I control it? Okay. Yeah. First and foremost, the calculation of square footage on this it does not total 492 when you apply the San Angelo code to it. Basically, you take the smallest rectangle that can fit around any symbol or letter, symbol, whatever it is that's signifying the business. So when you do that, just that LED pricer alone goes from I can't read it what that says. I think it's 248 or something like that. It drops to 199. That being said, if you have just the Kent Quick Travel Center sign up there and the LED, you would be right at the 300 square foot threshold. When we put together this sign back in October, we submitted this to the city and had a little bit of a lot of misunderstanding. I was actually here back in November, only to find out that my sign wasn't on the agenda that day. I was then told that it would need to go to the Zoning Board of Adjustment in December, to only then plan another trip here and be told that no, it is indeed the Planning Commission that it needs to go to. So 2 months later, I'm here now with a site that's within 4 weeks of opening, and we don't have a sign nailed down. All that aside, please also note that this project has over 1,000 feet of frontage along Bryant Boulevard. All the subject signs that were just shown to you are much smaller parcels than that. This is also advertising 2 businesses that exist on the same development. Again, by your standard, yes, we could put up 2 50-foot signs on the same property. They just had to be separated by 500 feet, I believe, which we have the room to do. Our goal was to keep the signage, it's hard to look at that sign and say keep it to a minimum, but to keep it tasteful, keep it whatever, and we felt like combining the 2 businesses on one sign was the best thing aesthetically. I would also argue that topographical hardships do exist. I drove in this morning, and when I'm heading into town, you don't even see the subject property till you make that curve into town. If we had the 70-foot sign, you would actually see it before you make the curve. The 50-foot, you will be able to see it. The real question is going to be, this is a travel center. Trucks are going to be using this frequently. We want to make sure they have enough time to make their maneuver to safely exit the highway into the subject property. I believe there's a new traffic signal that's being installed at West 33rd. Is that the correct street? It was told to me by the owners of the property that they're being told they need to install signs further up the road, bringing awareness to the traffic signal because of limited visibility, whatever the case may be. So I think it's ironic that we're being told there's no topographical hardship to advertise the property, but you do have to advertise the traffic signal that's, at the same intersection that we're talking about. Again, actually until 6:02 p.m. on Saturday, I didn't know that square footage was even a part of this discussion today. I thought it was just the 70 versus the 50. That's when I received a copy of the plan staff report. So again, I've had about 40 hours to figure out how I'm going to approach you today. The 70-foot versus the 50-foot. At this point, I've engineered the sign that I can install that sign at 50 or 70. Whatever the outcome of today was going to be, I'm calling my fabrication shop to cut a steel pipe. So if you were going to approve the 70, they build it as is. If you're going to approve the 50, they were going to cut it, and it still works. My personal hardship is that all of those signs have been built and ordered, and just the LED pricer alone is about $65,000. It can't be returned. If I have to order another one, it's 8 weeks. Again, I've got a huge development that's trying to open, and I just found out about sizing problems 40 hours ago. In my haste to figure out how to solve this, again, if you apply, and let me tell you exactly what section of your code talks about this. It's 12.04.002. It says, the smallest rectangle that can encompass the area of said symbol or figure shall be included as part of the total message area calculations. Like I said, if you apply that to that LED pricer, it becomes 199 square feet. The Kent Quick Travel Center sign, as designed, is roughly 103. I haven't applied that same metric to it, but I know it will drop by at least 2 square feet. So again, on a 50-foot sign with that LED pricer and that Kent Quick Travel Center, I meet the requirement. My issue is I still have to advertise the Huddle House business that's also on the property. Again, technically, I guess they could put another 50-foot sign up somewhere with the Huddle House cabinet. It's just more expense, more cost, and you get 2 50-foot signs on the same property versus one. So I guess I would ask the commission to take all that into consideration, and the fact that obviously someone's putting a lot of money and investment into your community to, service not only your residents but folks that are passing through town. I don't think I have anything else, but if anybody has questions directly for me as the sign person, I'm willing to answer as best as I can.
Mr. Fryer, I had a couple things. This is one of the staff planners. Have you thought about if you're gonna spend the money on cutting the pole anyway, and that seems feasible, could you do to, because it looks like, and I'll go over the sign area in a minute, but could you just do 2 freestanding signs given the fact that you've got 1,000? Because you got Huddle House as one, and I know that was in for permitting. So could you just split these up basically into 2 and have the unleaded diesel sign as one, and then have another pole with Huddle House and Kent Quick as another? And I think you could get each of those under 250, and then you wouldn't need to worry about the variance. I think that the concern we have, and I know this is a little open to interpretation because it says symbol, logo, et cetera, and I think the fact that the colors, so like in a normal billboard sign, you'd have a large area that wouldn't encompass the sign. You'd have the advertising, we wouldn't count the bracket. Because the colors, it's intended that it covers the whole square and that the areas were shown. I think that's why we got 492. But even if you took that off, I think you were still at 450. So either way, you're going to need the variance, however we interpret that. I think the issue is the intensity and the size of the sign, and then bigger concern is setting a precedent for more of these signs. If we allow one, then someone else will come back. So if there's a way, maybe you could, that's just one suggestion I have.
Well, like I said, can I touch this screen?
Sure.
Yeah, so, like I said, my quick reaction, excuse me, to what, I discovered on Sunday or Saturday night was, whoops, I don't know why I'm putting arrows, was just to take this sign off, move this to more of a center location, and then do a separate Huddle House sign kind of at the driveway entrance to where the Huddle House is. Because right now you've got curb cuts for the Chevron Kent Quick, and you've got another curb cut about 2/3 of the way down the property for the Huddle House.
Okay.
So I was gonna put a 30-foot Huddle House sign there. Leaving this where it is, because I do think it gives you visibility from both directions, you know, for the development. You know, again, I think, and is Kyle Warren here? Yeah.
Right behind you.
Okay. I don't know if he's able to do anything with his email up here, but I had my staff send another drawing showing how we boxed out, you know, the numbers, the symbols, everything, showing you the square footage. But I also sent him the pictures I took this morning where, like I said, I disagree with the topographical hardship. I took 3 different pictures, with the last being where you first see the development, and it really is where that curve finally straightens out and gets you going, you know, adjacent to the
Talking
property.
about from approaching
From
north of
heading
town,
east.
driving south.
Well, I guess it is south, but
Yeah.
the sun was burning my retinas,
Yes.
so I figured it had to be somewhat east. Yeah, yeah.
And it's 65 miles an hour on that stretch, and it reduces to 55 just north of your site.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying, is you
It's
really don't see it.
65 through the curve, and then it drops to 55.
Right, so I'm just thinking,
But I'm
I
expecting
don't know how to
that
drive
the
a
city's
big truck,
probably gonna
but
reduce the
That will
speed
likely
limit when they
change,
put the
yes,
slide up.
With the sign,
with the,
or with the
With the light goes in.
traffic light. and-
Yeah.
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 I just wanted to point out a couple of things. One, on the measurement, the way the measurement is on signs, this is one sign. And so an applicant really doesn't want us to call this 3 signs, because then you get into the total number of signs allowed. But it says the single geometric figure that encompasses the sign. So I think the confusion is we measure the sign area something like that, because that's the smallest geometric figure that encompasses the entire face of the sign.
Got it.
But regardless of that, he made a good point that we have in the past allowed, or you all have allowed, and we've recommended slightly larger signs when they're combining multiple signs on a site, like group signage. So I think in this case, we might be okay recommending allowing the sign increase in the area. We're pretty confident in the 50 feet being the max. Again, that's the max everywhere. That's the ordinance that council adopted that applies throughout the city. So we would still be pretty adamant about keeping it to the 50 feet max. But I think, given that justification for the, I think the condition we would want to place on that is that they not place that extra sign at some point in the future. So in order to get the larger area, they, instead of putting 2 signs on the site, they agree to only have this one. But I think with that condition, we'd be okay with the area variance.
There is another, a more standard chevron sign planned for the West 33rd corner. That's a 30-foot, I mean, it's the one you see in front of every chevron station, pretty much. So you're not putting a condition on that one, you're just saying don't put the other Huddle House in close proximity to this. Okay.
I just feel like with the driving visibility, I think if there were 2, like if Huddle House and the Kent Quick, sorry, I can't go that far, were 2 separate signs, I just feel like traffic-wise, it's too hard to visualize. I think they should be a combination.
Sure, I agree.
John, or somebody, how large is like a big billboard? I mean, I know there's one down there by the Walgreens and the car wash. How big is that approximately?
I'm not sure about those in particular. The largest billboards that you see are 672 square feet.
Okay.
Massive.
Okay.
It depends, but they're still held to the 50 foot. They still can't go
Right.
over 50 feet.
So if you were able to get it passed today with all your signs combined, and we approved that, but at a 50-foot height, would that satisfy your client?
They're hard to satisfy, but it would give me a good chance of.
Hey, you could get it put up in time.
Yeah, no, that would be excellent. I would say that yes, this is more important to them than having that second Huddle House sign. So yeah, I think even at the 50 feet, and which I completely understand that you don't want to set a precedent going forward. they just love big signs, you know, everywhere they go. Give me the bigger sign, give me the bigger sign. So I travel all over the state trying to get bigger signs.
Mr. Fryer,
Yeah.
would you also be open to another condition of approval, or maybe just a note that you provide Mr. Warren, our planner, with the reduced sign area, whatever that calculation is, so we can just note that in his approval?
Yeah.
If it's
and,
approved.
He doesn't have his computer
So we
there,
know
but
it's
yeah.
not actually 492, but it's a little bit less?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but now you were saying that my application of that section I read,
Yeah, I
You
think the
weren't
easier
with-
way to do that, he submitted this, so I think you could approve it subject to the drawing that you're looking at right now. And we could just include that in the approval. That would
Okay.
work.
Subject to the drawing that we're seeing on the
Yes.
screen. Okay.
all right,
Since we have that and we can keep that in the case file.
but can I need to make one change to that because when I didn't build the Huddle House sign, it came from a national sign company. Since it's a brand, a lot of brands won't let me build the sign. I went out to my yard and measured that, and it's actually, instead of 8 foot by 16.2, it's 8.4 by 16. So, you know, like I said, there's a little bit difference, but to make them symmetrical, I've got to now make the Kent Quick 8.4 high. I don't know if the width changed at all to get that height. So, I mean, I could submit as soon as I leave here today. Or actually, I could email it right now. It's on my phone. But the LED pricer has not changed. That again, that's built by someone else. And then I have this sign built and engineered for both 70 and 50 feet. Just because, like I said, I knew it was going to come down to an approval.
Okay, so you're saying that the Huddle House and Kent Quick signs will be each 8 feet 4 inches tall by
I know the Huddle
16
House
feet
is
wide.
Yeah, I know. Well, no, the Kent Quick will be shorter, because basically the Huddle House is 8'4" by 16 even. So the Kent Quick is now 8'4", and it might have grown by the 2 inch, to suck up that distance because they're trying to keep them symmetrical with the LED pricer.
Got it. So the distance is the same. The square
Should.
footage calculation that John did is the same. Because
It's-
you're staying within the
say it-
boundaries of that LED pricer, right?
It should be, and then obviously going to 8'4" from 8, the overall pipe section has reduced by 4 inches to keep, the overall height.
Yeah.
So, okay, but I can get the absolute updated thing submitted in 5 minutes.
Okay. Any other questions for Mr. Fryer? Thank you for your time, sir. Thank you for coming from Houston.
I like it out here, although my allergies are killing me today. I don't know why.
All right, anyone else wish to speak on this case? I'm going to close public comment. Anyone want to make a motion or ask more questions?
And hopefully this comes out correct. So I'm going to make a motion to approve, subject to the drawing that we had on the screen with the minor changes and the inches that the applicant mentioned, with the 50-foot max height.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve the applicant's submitted sign plan at a 50-foot height for the sign, maximum.
And did you want to add the condition that they not have a separate sign for the Huddle House, or either, I guess?
Correct, as long as it still allows them to put their chevron
Right.
sign on 33rd.
Okay. We're also going to add the condition that the property owner cannot add another Huddle House monument sign. What is this, a freestanding sign?
Freestanding.
Freestanding sign.
And this, just not to confuse things, but this does not include the Huddle House sign that's already in for permitting. 'Cause there is a Huddle House freestanding sign that's being reviewed right now, but we're okay with that. We're just saying not another one.
Like, so am I null and void right now? What's happening?
What is going on?
Do you want to,
I think what he's saying is we're getting rid of the one that has been submitted for permit. It was a 30-foot.
to the mic?
Come to the mic.
Yeah, come on up. Come on up and speak into the mic. Going to open public comment for Mr. Fryer.
Yeah, no, what was submitted was a 30-foot standalone. It only had Huddle House on it. And I think what they're saying is the stipulation of approval of this is that that one goes away.
Goes away.
Okay, just
Yeah.
clarifying. Thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Fryer. Going to close public comment.
Is there anything else we need to know?
All right. So we have a motion and a second to approve the sign that the applicants have submitted at a 50-foot height with no other freestanding signs for Huddle House. Good with that? Correct. Okay. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? 7-0. Director's report.
The only thing I had, I think I had sent you all an email about the sidewalk ordinance. As you all had directed us to work with a group, including the Home Builders Association, we heard back from them on Monday that they weren't going to have a draft. And then we finally got a draft from them on Wednesday. We thought that that was too quick of a turnaround to provide that to you all and give you time to review it. So we've recommended pushing that to the January meeting. After briefly looking at their draft, I think we're pretty close, so I think we'll be ready to bring something back in January.
Okay. Thank you, John. Future meeting and agenda announcements. The next regular meeting of the Planning Commission is scheduled to begin at 9 a.m. on Monday, January 24th, 2022. Adjournment.
Motion to adjourn.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? 7-0. It's 11 a.m.